Hi, family. Welcome back to another episode of the Thriving Diabetic Mom Broadcast. I am your host, Candace Norris Jenkins, also known as the Diabetic Mom Coach. And as you can see, guys, we have another very special guest here today. We have Lauren Plunkett. And Lauren, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself, and then we're going to get started into our topic today. So, Lauren, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk with your audience, and the subject matter today is nice and juicy, and that will be fantastic.
Yes.
Yes, I am Lauren. I am a registered dietitian. I'm a certified diabetes care and education specialist, which is the long word now for diabetes educator. And most importantly, what I want you to know is that I have had type 1 diabetes for 31 years. And in fact, I think this week might have been my anniversary. I don't remember.
Happy
Oh,
anniversary. We're
anniversary.
like
Yeah.
neck and neck. I'm almost at 30, so you got me
Oh,
beat by a year.
it's funny, like how it was just yesterday, right?
I know.
But you never stop learning with this.
Yeah.
And I guess it wasn't written in the stars, really. Well, I guess it was written in the stars for me to end up where I did, because I tried with all my might to not become a dietitian.
Yeah.
And it ended up working out that way because I woke up at one point and realized that I had a long way to go to get healthy.
Yeah.
A kid being raised in the clinic as I was,
Yeah.
not everything I learned in the clinic was helping me.
Yeah.
And we are all individuals. And for some people it works. And for me, it really, really didn't.
Yeah.
So I started to really focus on food and choose things differently. And the
Yeah.
path that I went down ended up becoming plant-based. And plant-based nutrition really saved my life, but it also taught me things about food that I really needed to repair, like my
Yeah.
relationship with carbohydrates, my
Mhm.
relationship with my body. All of this came into play while I took a different approach to nutrition. And then I went back to school and got the certifications that I have. And now I work with all kinds of people, really that are focused on performance nutrition and reversing insulin resistance, which is how people go from type 2 diabetes to reversing it and putting it into remission, and also helping people with prediabetes prevent the increase in A1C, and then also helping people with type 1 diabetes thrive, particularly in athletics. So
Yes.
I'm an
Yes.
indoor cycling instructor. So that's the piece of me that
I love it.
really came up when I got healthier.
Yeah.
I had more energy than I knew what to do with. So I started
I
getting
love
back on my
that.
bike.
Lauren, I wanted to pick up on something that you said that
Mhm.
really struck me. And I tell this to my moms in my group too. I think because we've been diabetic for so long, we all get to a point where we have to decide to do something differently, right?
Mm.
And I love how you said, I decided. And it's like, wow, it's so that word is so just rich to me because we all have a decision to make. It's like, are we going to live with diabetes or are we going to thrive with diabetes? And like you, Lauren, I had to make a decision that
Mhm.
diabetes wasn't going to be the end of me and that I was going to still live a very full life and still thrive with diabetes. So I love
Yeah,
that.
it's amazing. And I think that something I've learned with the people that I've worked with is that we have more control over our destiny, in a sense,
Yes.
our health direction,
Hmm.
than we think we do. The clinical experience can be very disempowering.
Yes.
And, our self worth gets tied to a number.
Yeah.
And we're
Absolutely.
watching those numbers all the time. So we do have to kind of choices. We get to
Yeah.
choose. No, 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 no. I'm in charge of my thoughts. I can steer
Yeah.
this differently. I
Yes.
really
Yes.
can.
If this resonates with you guys, make sure to leave us a heart in the comments. And speaking of clinical, I want to get into something that we are taught to do sometimes as new diabetics, but I want Lauren to shed some light on this. And we're going to talk today about the subject of dun 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 carbs, carbs.
Woo!
So, Laura, just tell us really quickly. We all want to know, like, we all love our pasta. We all love our bread. We all love all the good, yummy stuff. So just give us an introduction to carbs and how we can
Mm.
navigate the carb journey.
Hmm. This is so important. I'm so happy to be here. We could have part 1, 2, 3, 4 talking about
Oh
this.
my gosh, yes.
My career is pretty much surrounded by helping people choose carbohydrates wisely and learning how to eat them. I watch people get healthier when they start to figure out which carbohydrates work for the body and
Yes.
which do not work for the body.
Mm,
So to simplify this, carbohydrates, there's a wide range of
mm,
carbohydrates. And what we tend to think about is good or bad. And
yeah.
we really want to try to eliminate some of this language around carbohydrates, because the way to look at them is this a whole food that it contains fiber,
Yeah.
or is it a processed food that has
Mm,
no fiber in it at all?
yeah.
And the difference is where we tend to forget that these foods don't react the same way,
Yeah.
because candy and pastries and chips and cookies, we all know they do something different in our body
Oh
than
yeah.
sweet potatoes and beans and like wild rice. And you
Yeah.
get into like really cultural carbohydrates there with fruits and veggies. And to remember that vegetables are carbohydrates. They're
Hmm.
often not talked about that way, like on the plate method or however you may have been taught clinically. And it's not
Hmm.
fair. It
Yeah.
is not fair at all, because that is where the fiber lives. So we don't want to be taught to restrict those healthy forms of carbohydrates,
Hmm.
because those also give us an abundance of nutrients that impact our whole system. So we don't want to just, like, I'm putting this in quotes, eat like a diabetic. We
Yeah.
want to eat like the person that we are, and the person that we are needs more nutrition.
Right.
So now, if the phrase is, I love my pasta, how do I work with my pasta? Here's what I challenge you to do is look at all these different types of pastas out there, because
Mhm.
pasta has changed recently
Mhm.
in the
Yes.
recent past here. And
You go in
you
the
can,
store and you see like all these different kind of pastas and even pasta
Mhm.
that's not really pasta.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, like even hearts of palm. There's
Yeah.
nothing in that. And you don't want to be completely void of nutrition either, but you
Mhm.
can find fiber in pasta. And so the thing that we get from pasta is that when we eat it, it's so filling, it's warm, the sauce is good, it absorbs quickly, and that's why we think, oh no, my blood sugar is going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
There's more to pasta than just the noodle. So now, if you're looking at the label, you may see pasta like a whole grain that's made out of semolina. And semolina is a whole grain that can actually
Mhm.
help to slow down the absorption rate, because that's what fiber does. Fiber slows the absorption rate. That's why we want it. Now, you could go the next step, and you could get like a red lentil based pasta, which is one of my
Seen those.
favorites. And it makes a
Yeah, I've
really,
seen those.
yeah, it makes a good cold pasta.
Okay.
There's also a little bit of science around something called resistant starch. So once you cook something like pasta, potato, or
Yeah.
oats,
Mhm.
let it cool. And the cooling process also helps to do something to the fiber to make it slower to digest.
Okay.
So you can science it out and test
Okay.
it. Yeah, test the
Yeah.
resistance. Like overnight oats is a good one to kind of
Yeah.
test out. So they're cold oats in the morning, and see if your blood sugar responds, so that you rise a little less.
Yes.
Because rising after we eat is natural. That is not, we do not need to have this flat line business all the
Right.
time if that's what
Yeah.
we're kind of like looking at on a continuous glucose monitor. So
Yeah.
realize that everybody's body has this process of absorption where glucose is going to go up, but the goal is
Yes.
to come down into
Yes.
range. So no shaming yourself if your blood
Yes.
sugar moves. It's supposed to move.
I like to, someone told me this one time and I love this. It's like, you know how the levels look on your CGM, it's kind of like up, down, up and down. And we
Mhm.
all are trying to get that flat line. I know, like I try as much as possible to just have an even consistent day. It doesn't always work out that way. But
Mhm.
someone once told me, the only flat lines that you see are usually someone that's deceased. And so we're all living, and
Yeah.
it's okay to see the fluctuations in your CGM. So
I call it rolling in range, and you could
yeah.
make a song out of that. I mean, you can
Yep.
kind of do this rolling in range, right? And yeah, it's
You know the
exactly
you know
right.
the 90s movie Clueless when they were like rolling with the
It's
homie.
exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, like, have that in your mind and go, "This was my day." And that's ideal, and,
Yeah.
working with athletes, I can tell you that's the way that nutrition works, especially carbohydrates, is what you're actually seeing on a CGM. This trend line is showing you the rate at which you absorb food.
Mm,
And there's a lot to talk about with like insulin resistance in this process. So
yeah.
back to carbohydrates, if you're not used to eating very many, introduce even the fiber rich ones
Mhm.
slowly. Go slow with that, because if you're not eating carbs, guess what? You're probably eating a lot of fat.
Yeah.
And fat can kind of get in the way. I think of it as kind of traffic on the highway.
Yeah.
And fiber helps to push some of that traffic on the highway out
Mm,
of the way, but it takes some time, and that's called removing the resistance, or removing some of that insulin resistance. And we're making our way, we're making a straight line pathway, traffic free zone for like sweet potatoes and those high fiber bean burritos and
yeah.
good stuff like that that you probably are missing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're trying to enrich things with fiber. And the other thing you can do with pasta is have some leafy greens with it. Get yourself that salad first. Throw some broccoli into that pasta. I really like sun-dried tomatoes and
Yeah.
artichokes in
I
pasta.
love them. Delicious.
Yes, and do a red sauce instead of like a heavy creamy Alfredo, because that fat is going to really cause like
Mm,
a delayed carbohydrate rise.
yes.
So yeah, in a little brief kind of exciting little method of how do you eat pasta, I hope that that makes some people kind of excited about what they can do with it.
I love that. I love that. And like you said, just the cooling off method, like wow. I'm gonna try that. I've never looked into the difference between like if you eat oatmeal hot as opposed cooling it overnight and seeing if that makes a difference in your blood sugar. So
Mhm.
that's like one of those takeaways, one of those gems where I'm definitely gonna try that.
Give it a
Yeah.
shot. Potato salad also.
Okay.
Now, the thing about potato salad is that we're used to adding so much fat on top of it, but the process of a potato salad is to quarter the potatoes, boil them, and let them cool. That's
Right.
how we turn into salad, right? So
Yes.
now if you're doing like baked potatoes, well, actually, the boiling process is what we're going for, because a baked potato, you might not necessarily let it cool down and then eat it the next day. But with the
Okay.
boiling process, like baby reds, and I do this with sweet potatoes because I like them cold, and I'll put them
Okay.
into a salad the next day. So I've got all these different colors in my salad, and my body really does well with sweet potatoes. I just don't
Okay.
react very much to them at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. Me too.
So
I just had
explain.
potatoes.
Hmm.
A question that I did want to ask Lauren is the famous potato, since we're here.
Okay.
What is your recommendation to women with diabetes who love French fries? Like, I like ketchup. That's my guilty pleasure.
Okay.
But I started now, even with my kids, because
Mhm.
they love French fries. So I'm like, well, let's make some homemade fries. So, we do the potatoes instead of the processed fries that you usually buy in the grocery store. I'll do the potatoes and let them
Mhm.
soak for a while because that takes some of the starchiness out of the potatoes. And then I'll just make some homemade fries on the stove. So, what is your
Mhm.
recommendation for, how diabetics should be, I guess, eating the French fries?
I love the like potato fingers, like the really rich kind of French fry. I love that, and
Yeah,
I
buddy.
will crave them. Oh yeah, I'll crave them. And um, I think that for some people, they have success with the air fryer because they end up using a lot less oils and fats on top of it. So,
Okay.
so what you're actually thinking about is, all right, so the potato has all the starch, and I'm not suddenly going to make this potato into anything other than a potato.
Right.
But what you put on that potato is kind of where all the magic is, and how you
Mhm.
can work with it so that you can delay the absorption process of that starch. So the
Okay.
first step is immediately, to make them healthier, is tossing them with like veggie broth and spices to get
Okay.
them all to stick and get moist instead of
Yeah.
using oil. That's one
Okay.
thing. And veggie broth takes really well to those potatoes, because when you cut up those big russets, they're really kind of like wet
Yes.
inside. So the veggie broth starts to soak in, and then you can just spice the heck out of them. Garlic,
Okay.
paprika, chili powder, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
if you're using a silicone mat on a cookie sheet to bake it, you're basically making completely fat-free, oil-free potatoes at that point. So they're
Okay.
just the potato. It's still just purely a potato.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're easy to count. You kind of know what you're dealing with carbohydrates, and you've immediately made a much healthier French fry in a sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Now the checkpoint here, if you've been listening, is what do you add to your really starchy carbohydrate to slow down the absorption rate? What can you add to this? And so your French fries never go without a friend. Your friend needs to be something like a mixed veggie tray,
Mm-hmm.
or a great big leafy salad. Maybe you've got something in there like soybeans, which is kind of like your shelled edamame, because you're
Yeah.
adding some protein and you're also adding fiber at the same time.
Okay.
So you're creating a partnership. Like, what do you like to eat with potatoes? Okay. What do you like to top them with? And I actually really like to put roasted red pepper hummus on a potato
Okay.
instead of like butter or bacon bits, or,
Yeah.
adding the added fats, the saturated fats that
Right.
I don't want in my body. I want more of those plants and more of those greens.
Yeah.
So you're always thinking, this is how you would work with rice. This is how you would work with, again, the pasta. Like, your fast acting carbohydrate needs to have a fiber rich friend.
Right.
And that's also how you would work with desserts, is have a fiber rich main.
Mm.
And then it's going to help to slow things down. At the same time, eat slowly if you're not used to these carbohydrates. But
Yeah.
this is how you start to learn, like, hold on, I can actually use carbs to slow down the other carb,
Yeah.
or to give myself more nutrition,
Yeah.
period.
Oh, I
So
love it.
it's nutrient enrichment versus like restriction.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you speak from not a restrictive place, because you and I, we've been diabetics for a long time, and all of our lives it's always been about, you can't do this and you can't do that. And I really like to share with women, and especially moms. It's like, okay, let's figure out what we can do. So I love these tips. And even to share with kids, like my kids can be really picky sometimes. They want the fries, but now we've learned kind of some new ways to make the fries.
Mm-hmm.
So we're passing on those healthy habits. We're passing them down to even be examples so that our kids can also see us being healthy, and to be healthy themselves.
Kids are such mimics,
Yeah.
they see, and even if I remember doing this with my dad, being like, you'd think I'm not listening. That's just what this looks like.
Yes.
I'm picking up on everything you're putting
Yep.
down. And my dad used to say every single day when I left the house, he'd say, come home smarter and make good decisions. Or it'd be the other way around,
Mm.
make good decisions and come home smarter. Okay, Dad, and I was like, constantly. But, I never forgot to take my insulin. I
Yeah.
knew like there were extra things I had to do to take care of me.
Right.
And that's when I was a kid. So you think about your kids being mimics. Like, if I kind of think of it in a simplified manner, that means all you need to do is be a good example. Like,
Yeah.
literally all you have to do is be the example, like be the grown-up you want your kids to be. But also,
Absolutely.
what I love about kids is they like color. They really do
Yes.
gravitate towards color. And the gosh darn candy industry totally
Hmm.
knows that. I mean, if you just look
Yep.
at the Halloween thing going on right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I even want to run to it. The Halloween displays look wonderful. They're
Yes.
colorful. They look fun. Like, I
Yes.
get it, but I definitely should not be packing in the Reese's candies.
Yes.
Now I know about it. But I get how easy it is for kids just to be like, I don't know the difference between that and like the healthy foods. They don't know that.
Right.
But the nice thing is, if you start to associate, like if you've got kids that will like steamed carrots, they like the color, they like the feel, they like the sweetness
Yeah.
that are picking up on it.
Yep.
Orange sweet potatoes are the same color.
Yeah.
They might start to go, okay, I'll give that a chance. And then the texture is different. If they
Yeah.
accept the texture, they might be willing to try a different texture.
Yeah.
The sooner you can get them to associate green with something cool, the
Yes.
easier it will be to get them to try other green things. So
Yeah.
I say,
Yeah.
moms, like, you get to play tricks on your kids,
Yep.
with
That's
colors
one of the
and
best
textures.
parts.
Yeah. And you get to like blend, things like blended greens with a banana and make
Yeah.
them little banana smoothies. They may really
Yes.
dig that. And, you drink it too, and
Yep. There
you
you
give them
go.
options.
And we call it a dinosaur smoothie because it's
Oh,
green. It's a dinosaur smoothie, but they have no idea that it's packed with fruits and vegetables. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. It's funny. I feel like I've done that with my husband. I mean, they can be the same as kids
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
because he
And
didn't,
I
he
was
wanted
even going to
bananas.
mention that whole color idea. I think
Hmm.
that works on us too, subconsciously. It's like when you think about or at least I can speak from experience.
Hmm.
When I start to think about how I shop now, and it's like I want all the colors. I want green peppers, I want red peppers. Like everything should be in colors, and I've learned along the way that usually when you have a colorful plate, it means that your plate is healthy because you're getting in a lot of good fruits and vegetables and things like that.
Absolutely. Every color has a different range of nutrients that go with it.
Yeah.
What I was describing with how I would create like a bowl or something green to go along with something like French fries or a starchy carbohydrate is what
Hmm.
you could look up as a Buddha bowl. So if you type in Buddha bowl, you're going to see
Yes.
all these colors.
Love them. Love
Yeah,
them.
and like it really starts with a grocery list. So
Yes.
pick 15 ingredients that you can rotate through, and if you can kind of get into making some of these bowls, that's a really easy way of getting more fiber in
Yeah.
based on your own likes, like your preferences with
Yes.
nutrition. You don't have to force yourself to eat anything you don't like,
Yeah.
but you might surprise yourself if you like the Mediterranean vibe or you like the Southwest vibe or you want something spicier and you kind of like the Asian flavors. All three of those do it for me. So
Yeah. Me too.
right, like you can play with these ingredients, and that's how you can probably suddenly realize I am eating more fiber just because I gave myself permission to eat the foods I like.
Yes.
Give myself permission to, do this.
I love that, Lauren. And one thing, Lauren, it's funny that when I teach the moms in my program, I definitely talk about creating that list and doing meal prepping. And it's like you said something that really resonated with me when you said you start to learn about more foods that you like. Well, once you figure out that, hey, I love purple cabbage, you can then start to create recipes around purple cabbage and expand your palate that way. And I know, like for me with my diabetes, one thing that keeps me sane is kind of having the consistency of eating certain foods because I know what they'll do to my blood sugar. And
Mhm.
so, say for instance, if I'm going out and I want some apples, and I talk about going to Trader Joe's every week because that's just my happy place, right? But I
Okay.
get those bagged apples, like they
Mhm.
already sliced in a bag. Number one, they're easy. All you gotta do is rip the thing open.
Mhm.
Number two, my kids love them, so we can share. Number three, if I'm having a low, I got something right there I can start to snack on. So I just love them. But I also know, okay, if I eat three or four slices, this is usually what it does to my blood sugar. And so there's not a lot of guesswork there for me. And so could you talk a little bit about the consistency? I know we're on carbs, but
Mhm.
from the place not of not restricting carbs for someone that says, hey, um, the white Alfredo sauce that you mentioned. That's my favorite food. So how can I incorporate that into my routine, but maybe only have this much and I know what it'll do to my blood sugar? Or if someone that wants to have, that weekly serving of fries or whatever it may be, how would you kind of consult them into incorporating that into their routine?
I have an example for you
Oh,
on
perfect.
on that end. And then I actually, because of you mentioning the apple, I kind of want to like lead into how fruit can be such a fear point too.
Okay.
Because the way you work with that apple is so measurable, and that can be like a very comforting angle. So I can actually tie these two things together. So I have almost a ritual with my breakfast because I often wake up hungry and it's getting cold here. I live in Minnesota, right? Like I wake up hungry and it's getting cold here and it's getting darker at this time of the
Yeah.
year. And so I don't eat oatmeal, like oats, all summer long, but I'm getting to that point where I want it. I want to smell the
Yeah.
spice, and like it's such a comfort food for me.
Yeah.
And I know that oatmeal can be one of those things where people type one are like, oh my gosh, it's going to send me through the roof. And
Yeah.
remember, it's not an overnight process to invite more carbohydrates into your world. So
Yeah.
if you want to do something like oats, it may actually work better later on in the day than in the
Mhm.
morning, when we tend to rise a heck of a lot faster. And then
Yes.
later on the day, we're more sensitive. So there isn't a timing rule to anything. There's when it works the best for you. So timing
Yeah.
could be part of that choice. So within my oatmeal, I do a very measurable measurable amount of oats. I just make it with water. I actually put in PB2. I do a powdered peanut butter. Otherwise, I will eat way too much of the regular peanut butter because it's a comfort food for me. So I got to mind myself.
Yeah.
I put in blueberries or blackberries. They can be frozen fruits too. Fruits are kind of expensive right now. So I've been doing bigger bags, right? Like
Yeah.
of the frozen ones.
Yeah.
And then the magic is this one where I'm like, I don't have anything sweet in here. I mean, I've got the fruit in here, but I don't have any added sugars. I don't have
Right.
any of the brown sugars that often go with oats. This is just pure oats. I've got a decent amount of protein going on here with the PB2 and the oats combined. Now I'm going to put a tablespoon of dark chocolate chips on the top of my
Mm-hmm.
oatmeal. So it comes out of the microwave and it's that steaming. I add some almond milk and then I put the dark chocolate chips on top. It's
Amazing.
dessert for breakfast.
I love that. And I
Okay.
love that you're still having what you want, but you figured out how to do it. I love it. Love
Yep.
it.
Yep. And this is where there's a little bit of a give at times. If someone has a really strong craving towards a comfort food that happens to be like sweets, because we don't really eat sweets and chips because we're hungry. We
Yeah.
eat them because it hits us in the dopamine.
Yep.
It's the pleasure center that's just going off. And we do it when we have stress. We do it when we're tired. We do it because we're emotionally reactive humans. And we've now, unfortunately, really gotten into food as a source point because it has this addictive component that Whole
Yeah.
Foods didn't used to have.
Yeah.
But anyway, if I'm getting just dark chocolate chips, there's usually limited ingredient with the
Mm-hmm.
dark chocolate chips. And Whole Foods has a no sugar added one also. They're the only place I've seen that has a no sugar added. Actually, in fact, I think I saw another one. It might have been Target carrying another no sugar added with the dark chocolate chips.
Okay.
But
We've got to look
knowing,
it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're out there. And knowing within yourself if portions can run away from you, but you're still going to give yourself a little bit. That's the negotiation. That's where like remove that all or nothing thinking because you got to meet yourself in the middle versus trying to please your CGM every second of the day.
Yep.
And then you learn how you react. So if I'm adding extra oats because I'm hungry that morning, I'm going to end up adding insulin if that's necessary. But I
Right.
realize with dark chocolate chips, it's only a little bit of carbohydrate. I'm not concerned about that. I'm more
Right.
concerned about I'm eating so many of them, I'm falling into the sugar trap.
Right.
So that's one area to really work with those foods that you love.
Yeah.
With dressings, because you'd mentioned that Alfredo, something I do often with dressings, because I'm when I teach people about insulin resistance, we're always trying to decrease the fats that are not so healthy. So
Yeah.
nuts and seeds and avocado, fantastic. But the fats from like dairy and meat that are saturated, we really got to limit those guys if we're trying to reverse insulin resistance.
Okay.
So if you have something like a dressing that you love that goes over a salad, I always say, let's do what we got to do to get more greens in you. And if
Yeah.
we've got to work with the flavors, that's our first step.
Yeah.
But here's what we can do with like Caesar salad for Caesar dressing, for example, is
Mm-hmm.
you love it. You usually have like 2 tablespoons on it. It's a heavy dressing. Well, let's cut it in half and
Yeah.
add some lemon juice to that, or
Mm.
add a balsamic vinegar, and you're creating your own flavor profile at
Yeah.
that point. You could spice it differently. Lemon juice is a huge trick, just like veggie broth, for
Yeah.
expanding something that you feel like is just sending calories through the roof,
Yeah.
or you're trying to just cut a little back on because,
Yeah.
again, it's not working for you. It's kind of working against the goals that you
Yeah.
have for yourself.
Yeah.
So there's an acid. Acids always work in your favor. Like most salad dressings have like an acid, a spice,
Yeah.
or like an herb, and then kind of a base. And the base could be a nut based or dairy based or something like that. And so
Yeah.
you're trying to play with the acid to stretch out the fattier component.
Okay. Okay. All
That's another trick.
right.
Another
Yeah.
trick.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
that is like mind blowing because I mean I've kind of figured it out because I've been doing this for a long time as like Lauren has also. But for some of our moms who may be newly diagnosed or may
Mm-hmm.
have children that have been newly diagnosed, I think this is super helpful And, we're always learning, we're always growing. And so, Lauren, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
So informative. I know that we're going to get lots and lots of questions. So if someone would like to follow up with you, where can they find you? Like, where can we find you on social media? How can they get in
Mm-hmm.
contact with you?
Yeah. Pretty easy. So between Instagram and Facebook, I'm at Lauren Plunkett Health. So just first name, last name, and health. You can find me there. And my website is laurenplunkett.com. So you can catch me on both sides. You can work with me one-on-one. I'm taking clients now. I also have some other things kind of brewing as a project that should be kind of new and launching in the next few months, maybe the beginning of the year, which is going to be super cool.
Keep us posted.
Yeah, I've got some guides on there too, some ebooks to kind of get people dabbling a little bit more in plant-based or in exercise if they kind of want to DIY.
Okay.
And then you can always follow up with me once you use them. So I try to be really accessible to people and
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm going to put your contact in the show notes.
okay,
So if someone needs to reach you, it'll also be down there as well. But
perfect.
Lauren, thank you so much. This has been such an amazing conversation, and I know that it will impact many women that are living with diabetes. So thank you so much, Lauren.
Thanks for having me. And everybody, I hope that you have some really super fun meals as a result of getting permission to eat those carbs. So let us
Oh,
know
yeah.
about it. Like take pictures of your meals, post them in. Let's see what you got.
Oh, yes, definitely. Make sure to tag us. And if you like these tips and other episodes, make sure that you follow me, guys. Make sure you follow me on Facebook at the Thriving Diabetic Mom Coach. And don't forget to join the channel, the Thriving Diabetic Mom Community. We'd love to have you. We do videos just like this, just for you moms that are taking care of yourselves and your children. And until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.